Hello, welcome to the House of Wellness on this magnificent day, and it's always beautiful to be with Joe Stanley, Jacqui Felgate, Dr. Nick Carr. Welcome, everyone.
Good to see you, Darcy.
It's so gorgeous, and how lucky are we to be in Melbourne's Royal Botanic Gardens. And I have to say, this is my favourite place to be, out in nature, in the sunshine, fresh air. But try to get my daughter off the screen and out here. It's a nightmare. How do you go with your daughters?
Mine is shocking, and actually it was interesting. Over the Christmas period, I actually banned them from the iPad for 2 months, and it was tough, but to get them off it, you realise how addicted they are, but also when they are off it, how better behaved they are.
Yes.
Well, it's a question that often comes up with my patients, how many hours should my kids spend, what's too much? Because, of course, there's good and there's bad, because, unfortunately, Australia's Macquarie University has found that 3% of Australian teenagers could be diagnosed with what's called internet gaming disorder, which is a form of addiction where kids fly into a rage if they're taken away from their device, and they become kind of just detached from the real world.
I tell you what is an absolute no-no in our house is screens before bedtime, because we know that it actually impacts on your sleep. I mean, you can't win. You spend the first 10 years of their lives trying to get them to go to bed, and then it flips and you're yelling at them to get up all the time.
Well, from puberty, kids grow an amazing 8 centimetres every year, and their brains develop at this incredible rate. So sometimes it's incredible they get up at all, but their circadian rhythms also change, turns them into night owls, so they're actually biologically programmed to sleep in.
I'm actually at the other end of the scale with my kids who are still quite young. I just need them to sleep more.
I remember that very well in our house, Jack. We've changed gears slightly since then. And speaking of changing gears, I think everyone now is really aware of the dangers of sugary soft drinks and what they can do. And, Joe, particularly for our Indigenous communities, become a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Excessive sugar consumption is a major health concern in many remote areas. And latest information shows that actually Indigenous toddlers, 2- and 3-year-olds, are 3 times more likely than non-Indigenous kids to drink soft drinks.
And actually, Indigenous adults also have a much higher rate of soft drink intake, which is really sad, because there are 16 whole teaspoons of sugar in every 600ml bottle, which is a huge amount of sugar. And it's no wonder it contributes to our obesity and diabetes crisis.
It makes you think, doesn't it, when you sum it up like that? And it's actually a group of Indigenous AFL and rugby league players who are really working to change the mindset, and they're switching from those sugary drinks to good old-fashioned water, and bottled water is now being handed out in some schools.
Part of the challenge is trying to get an alternative to switch from a sugary drink, and that's exactly what researchers are doing right now in the heart of the Australian bush.
The Kakadu Plum Drink Project, that's my PhD project within the University of Queensland. Essentially what we are trying to do is find a way to empower Indigenous communities and work with them to improve their health. And so the avenue by which we're doing that is creating this sort of low sugar fizzy drink that we're using, and it's also got native ingredients in there such as the Kakadu plum, the Davidson plum, and we're trying to use that as a replacement to a full sugar soft drink. Compared to a full sugar soft drink, this drink is less calories. It's up to 50 to 80% less sugar. Obvious benefits there with regards to obesity and type 2 diabetes. We know in Indigenous communities there's higher rates of type 2 diabetes than there is in non-Indigenous populations, and similarly with obesity, all the other sort of nasty diseases as well, and that contributes 2/3 to the health gap, which we know exists between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Another difference from that full sugar soft drink is that it's also got extremely high levels of vitamin C. You can have 150ml of the drink and you get your daily vitamin C requirement just like that. We've got higher amounts of antioxidants too. So both of those aspects can be very useful, particularly working with remote Indigenous communities where access to fresh fruit and vegetables, which is where lots of our vitamin C comes from, is often quite limited. So if we can use this drink as a vessel to ensure that these communities are getting adequate amounts of vitamin C, then yeah, would be silly not to. I think it tastes really good. Feedback we've had from our communities have said that it tastes really good as well. So it's really refreshing, also because it's a carbonated beverage as well. The flavour of the Kakadu plum is actually quite powerful. It tastes a bit like a pear or a mango. Some say like an apple puree sort of flavour. And then there is that overpowering sort of citrusy vitamin C flavour to it as well. We want the Indigenous communities to take ownership of the drink and really make it their own, which is why it differs largely from lots of other projects that are going on in the area. Is we want this to be Indigenous owned, Indigenous led to help create Indigenous enterprise. So that's the end goal of this project.
I love, Jack, the wisdom and the history and the knowledge of our native bush fruit, underappreciated, so it's great that we're highlighting that today. As we are highlighting the Royal Botanic Gardens here in Melbourne on a beautiful day, and I know this is one of your favourite places in the world, Jo. Lots of great things buzzing around here.
Oh, absolutely love this part of Melbourne. And buzzing, do you mean the bees in here?
Well, a bit of everything.
Absolutely beautiful. Out there, when you talk buzz, you know what? It makes me think of e-scooters. And I don't know, I don't love them. They kind of freak me out a bit.
Well, e-scooters look like they might be here to stay. So Dr. Warwick Teague is going to give his verdict right after this.
Welcome back to the House of Wellness today from the beautiful Royal Botanic Gardens here in Melbourne. And were you aware, Jack, that there are 50,000 plants surrounding us today?
Oh, it really is a sanctuary, Darcy, isn't it? Right in the heart of our beautiful city. And there's a cool new activity that you can try here. It's called Sonica Botanica, and it teaches us about the sights and sounds of the gardens.
Oh, I absolutely love those audio experiences. I often do them at galleries. It's so great. You've got the headphones on, you're in your own head, you're listening to the music, you've got those visual spaces around you, and you learn so much while you're doing them. I love it.
I'm absolutely with you, Jo, because it's that great combination of sound and experience. And while the city of Melbourne has literally grown up with the trees and the plants, technology has also changed. Now, I'm talking here about e-scooters.
Very divisive issue, this one, Nick, particularly over in Europe, causing a lot of heartache, Jack, and you had a bit of first-hand experience on this.
I did. We use them all around Paris. They're absolutely everywhere, and they're a really good way to get around. But what is interesting is, obviously in Australia we have a lot of rules about helmets. In Europe, you don't have to wear a helmet. So there is that issue, which is problematic, Nick.
Well, actually, it's got Parisians in a little bit of a tears because the city is quite divided. So the mayor is taking it to a public vote. They're having a referendum in April, and so the city's residents are going to choose the fate of those e-scooters.
We haven't quite worked it out here in Australia. They're available in all states and territories, but different rules per state. And they seem to change every other day as well.
Well, to be fair, Darcy, it is still in the trial stage, so they're kind of ironing out the kinks here in Australia. But for me, there are some simple rules, which is always wear a helmet, only one per scooter, keep within the speed limit, and really importantly, at night time, wear something reflective or light. Why do they all seem to wear black? What is this?
So there's a bit of debate about the rules and regulations, but the safety advice when it comes to e-scooters is crystal clear.
It is really noteworthy that at the end of 2020, there were about 40 people coming to the hospitals in Victoria, to our emergency departments, with injuries that we know were related to e-scooters. Whereas the second half of last year, there were more than 300 people coming to emergency departments with injuries related to e-scooters. The key group, which represents about 1 in 4 injured people, are aged between 15 and 24. And the vast majority of e-scooter injuries are relating to the head and neck. And that's one of the reasons why part of the narrative of our response as a society and in the way that we would make this safer for users is to say that users should wear a helmet. When we look at how and why people are injured on e-scooters, we see some emerging themes of things that we think put you at greater risk of an injury on or from an e-scooter. A good example would be travelling too fast. There is a recommended speed for these, and when people exceed that speed, they are more likely to have a crash, and they are more numbered amongst the injured who present to our hospitals. Because of the ages and stages of people who are most enthusiastic about e-scooters, we are seeing an overlap between e-scooter injury and being under the influence of alcohol. Because of the relationship between e-scooters and the apps that drive their hiring, looking at a mobile phone whilst driving an e-scooter is a common observation. And again, it is not surprising that we find distraction in those moments to be a key factor behind why a crash occurred and therefore why an injury has been sustained. When doctors like myself start to see a new cause of injury, we really do stop and take stock of what is this new cause. And we shouldn't just simply ban e-scooters, that's not a proportionate response to the opportunities for mobility that they provide. E-scooters is a new idea. Let's open our mind to new ideas around safety as well. And if some of those safety features irk a little bit, that's okay, because falling from an e-scooter and smacking your head is also really going to hurt you.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, Joe, whether the Parisians vote for them to stay or go, because that city has the most used e-scooter fleets of anywhere in the world. They had 1.2 million riders last year.
Wow. Well, do you know what? I'm really interested, though, in the environmental impact, because we don't yet know what difference they're making. And the fact is they have a very short life. So are they going to be thrown away, and are they recyclable? So many questions,
It
Nick.
really bothers me as well, because you see them everywhere. But what I do know is that in Paris, they are limited to just 20 kilometres an hour, and they have to go in the bike lane. So I guess we'll find out in a few months' time.
Well, from Paris, wouldn't that be nice, to the salt mines, not quite. But this week, Hines, in his endless quest for better health, sees him surrounded by salt.
Nothing beats taking in a big, deep breath of fresh, salty air. Well, salt therapy rooms attempt to replicate that very experience with exactly that, a room full of salt. Now, I know personally I feel invigorated after breathing in salty air, but some people swear by the benefits as an alternative treatment for lung conditions, such as asthma, bronchitis, or even a cough.
Salt therapy has been around for hundreds of years in Europe, not so well known in Australia, but it is a very mild yet very effective therapy to treat respiratory and skin issues.
The key to it, obviously, is the salt. What type of salt have we got in here?
It is actually just a sodium chloride. For our salt machine, we use a very pure and fine mixture, because during a session, when we switch on the salt machine, which is called a halogenator, salt gets crushed to a very fine mist. It's all around the room, and you just sit here, relax. People can notice it a little bit on their tongue, but otherwise you cannot see it. But it goes through your sinuses, deep down your lungs, and clears out the airways, but it starts a healing process. Salt is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and even has antihistamine properties. So your common cold, congestion, sinusitis, even chronic conditions like hay fever, allergies, asthma, emphysema, all of these can be treated quite successfully with salt therapy.
We know the benefits of spending time near and in the ocean. Is a room like this replicating that experience?
Yes, absolutely. This room is built out of Himalayan salt bricks, and you're actually walking on salt. So the room is full of negative ions. That's the same when you go to the beach and it's a rough day and there's lots of wind and the fresh breeze around. That's the negative ions which make you feel so well. So the same when you sit here in the salt room after a session, you feel very calm and grounded, and I'm sure most people leave in a better mood as well.
What type of people do you see coming for salt therapy?
Everybody. Salt therapy is such a mild therapy. From newborns to 100 years plus, pregnant women can come in the salt room, and we actually do have all these people coming.
Is it the type of therapy that one session will kind of tick the box and fix me, or do you do it more regularly?
Look, lots of people come just as an add-on to other therapies and have this one session just to take a bit of time out to relax. But if you have something chronic going on, like let's say asthma or eczema, you will need to have more than one session. So people come on a regular basis. First, it's a good idea to come close together, and then you can space it out for the maintenance.
Does anyone ever fall asleep?
Most people fall asleep. So, as I said, there's no phones allowed, but you are allowed to read. And I see people coming with books and they have really good intentions to read, but afterwards they said, I just fell asleep. It's too calming.
You know, there's nothing new about this concept. Natural salt caves have been popular for centuries in Eastern Europe, so there must be some benefits to this type of therapy. Now, I personally don't have any chronic skin or lung conditions, so I can't talk to the effectiveness of it treating those. But I do feel energised, almost like I've had a day by the ocean, so that's great. But as with any natural therapy, my advice is just do your research, give it a go for yourself to find out what's right for you.
welcome to Melbourne's Royal Botanic Gardens. It's 38 hectares of beautiful trees and nature, Nick. It's like a little oasis in the city, isn't it?
It's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it, Jack? And it includes this rather famous river red gum, which is called the lion's head tree, because of the rather interesting gnarled formation on its trunk.
There's something really magical about being amongst trees, and science agrees. And here to tell us more about the growing practice of forest bathing is Susan Jacqui. Susan, hello.
Hello.
Can you tell me what forest bathing actually is?
Good question. What forest bathing means is immersing in the atmosphere of nature. So we don't have a forest here, but in the Royal Botanic Gardens, we're surrounded by this green oasis of plants and trees. And this is where every Sunday we have these walks. So forest bathing comes from Japan. The Japanese word is Shinrin-yoku.
Shinrin-yoku.
Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing.
And Susan, we all know it feels great to be in green spaces, but there's actually science behind this, isn't there?
Absolutely. And this is why forest bathing has taken the world by storm. Everyone is curious about forest bathing because there's an amazing amount of science that has developed over the last 30 years, actually. And what I'm going to do now is to demonstrate to you what is this forest bathing? Why is everybody intrigued? So this is a lemon-scented herb. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to crush it and take a smell, take a sniff.
Wow. Well, it's beautiful.
It is.
It smells of freshness and health.
Exactly.
You're a doctor. You'd know.
And so the gardens is surrounded by similar trees. And what you're smelling is what we now know as phytoncides.
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 It sounds a bit scary. It sounds like plant killers.
It actually is. This is what plants and trees do. They emanate volatile organic compounds called phytoncides. And what this does is it protects the tree from an onslaught of bugs or germs or fungi. And this is what the Japanese found out, that when we bathe, and this is where the concept bathe, the trees are bathing themselves with these phytoncides, and when we walk through, we breathe in. And what the Japanese found is that creates a really good way of protecting ourselves, because our natural killer cells sort of start corresponding with these volatile organic compounds. And that is the way of boosting our immunity.
So what do people tell you when you take a tour through the gardens here and do forest bathing? What's their reaction?
So many things that they report on. They just feel good. They feel relaxed. And this is, again, supported by science and research and evidence, because our cortisol levels go down. You know, people living in cities are just stressed.
Yes.
We're all stressed in some form or the other, right? And coming here and just connect to nature through your senses. Look at the green around you. You know, explore the textures, the smells, giving yourselves permission to just be. That's the message, and that's what we offer on these walks. And this is what people walk away with, that feeling of,
You can take part in some forest bathing every Sunday here at the Royal Botanic Gardens. Susan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tonight is the last night in training. It's probably the last time this group will ever look the same. And of course, we'll still be in Reach together if that's something we all choose.
It's the last session of the year for these trainees on the Reach program. For some, it's been a fortnightly journey over a large part of their lives. And this group is reflecting on some of their key takeaways.
It's a lot of actual skills, and like active listening is one of them, 100%, that when I came here I hadn't heard about, learned about, and it was something that really changed the game for me, because I'm a massive talker.
Surprise!
What we do is create a space where we have our highly trained facilitators that come into that space and allow young people to be themselves. We ask them relevant questions, what's going on for them. They feel safe and connected because it's a peer-to-peer environment, and they start talking about what's real for them.
It's really weird having like finals and last instead of like first and different things.
Over the last 30 years, the Reach program has helped young people implement skills and strategies to promote mental health.
One of my mum's favourite sayings is that the only way to learn to swim with sharks is by swimming with sharks. When I came into Reach as a 15-year-old, I was in a cohort of like 15 to like 25-year-olds. And then I was, for a long time, I was the youngest in the crew cohort and things like that. So I've always been swimming with sharks, and I've always been a little bit out of my depth, like enough that I've had to adapt and grow. So yeah, that attitude of like just doing it or jumping in and ripping into something or swimming with the sharks, even when it's terrifying, is really probably the biggest thing that Reach has given me.
Love you to turn to a new person, so maybe turn the other side.
Having facilitators who are around the same age as the kids is one of the driving strategies that helps open up communication channels.
In terms of like young people's growth and their emotional intelligence, like that is the core of what we do and want to do. And I think when they come into a program, some people are a little bit hesitant or don't fully understand what they're there for. It might just feel like a few games, a couple of activities. But over time, they start to realise that they're building confidence in themselves and who they are, who they want to be. They're able to speak in a big group versus coming in quite shy, and those little things are the massive ones for us.
I know you've done the Reach program before, so you would have done one other session.
The program also caters to older primary school kids. These Year 6s are soon to make the transition to high school.
We're going to be doing a little bit of a session where we're going to get to learn about each other and yourself in this room. I enjoy a lot about working with primary school kids. They're definitely probably way more wild than our high school young people, secondary young people. They will say it how it is. They're pretty confident in who they are and their abilities. They're pretty cheeky, but they're also at that age very open to having pretty hard conversations. What are things that they've done that have helped you? How do they show you support?
They show support by really being there for me and really just, being there for me, helping me out, and I think that I have done the same. I learned that it's probably okay to really speak up, and just by speaking up, it actually helped me a lot to deal with what happened at home. And I found out by one of my friends, Lucy, she also had the exact same thing happening. And I really felt that was it really did something to me that was really good. I felt that I wasn't, the only one.
Has anybody here played a game called Fork in the Pie? Yeah. A couple of you?
I like how they do icebreaker things at the start to get to know people. And I like how they let us be so honest and they let us take our time as well. They don't rush through it.
Yeah, I think the workshops do help you express your feelings because they put different strategies in to help you cope with different problems you're having.
I learned that everyone has a comfort zone, and it's okay not to always step out of your comfort zone, but it is good to step out of it sometimes.
In essence, we're teaching them, as I said before, resilience, confidence building, how to, have communication skills, how to express how they're feeling and emotions, finding tools and easier way to express who they are and who they want to be, but also how to just have fun and be a young person as well.
But you know what I always like to eat? Mangoes.
For the young facilitators, the biggest reward comes in witnessing the evolution of the kids.
When you got a bit of a cheeky smile, a little one.
We get to see potential in young people beyond maybe the adults in their lives. And I think once they get a little dose of that, they go, well, I want to keep coming back. But our facilitators, the age that we are, I'm a little bit older, but the age that we are, they get to relate to us way more, which I think is the biggest help.
Our trainers are world-class trainers. We are the only ones that train facilitators in this country from a young age. That is the only way to develop the level of skill that is required. That when we walk into a school with a 15-year-old and they're talking about something they've never spoken about before, never spoken to their parents about, never spoken to their friends about, and all of a sudden they're doing it in front of 60 people. That's a crucial moment that needs to be treated with the utmost respect, and he's done so with the highest level of facilitation training possible that's all been created out of the Reach Foundation.
Well, the Reach Foundation, founded by the late, great Jimmy Stynes, Irish-Australian AFL legend, has affected positively the lives of tens of thousands of teenagers around Australia, including our guest, the current CEO of the Reach Foundation, Fergus Watts. Good to see you, Fergus.
Thanks, Darcy. Good to be.
Very personal story for you, this. You are part of the Reach alumni. Tell us the impact it had on you.
Reach changed my life in many ways. I walked into a Heroes Day when I was 15. Jim was facilitating it. Heroes Day is 500 kids in a room, big music festival vibe, and Jim asked me, "Who are you?" And I couldn't answer the question. I'd never been asked it before. And that's a lot of what we do at Reach, is allowing young people to think about and understand who they are, and the trajectory of my life changed from there.
You know, I think that teenagers get a really bum rap these days, and my experience is actually I think they're extraordinary. I think they have much higher emotional intelligence than we did when I was a teenager. Is that your experience?
Yeah, young people are phenomenal. We develop young facilitators, we recruit them at 15 and we train them, and they're out in market at 19 and 20 delivering work for other young people. They've got phenomenal ideas, they're creative, and they're trying to figure themselves out. And a lot of the time as adults, we put undue pressure on them to be adults, to be acting like adults, when in reality, they're 15, 16 years old trying to figure out who they are in a world that's got a lot going on and a lot of stuff sort of pounding their way. They're phenomenal, the next generation of people.
So, Fergus, every parent and carer of a teenager wants just something to help them navigate this really tricky time. Can you give us a little smidge of magic?
It's very hard. Parenting is the hardest job in the world. I've got 3 young kids myself. No one's taught how to be a parent. No one's told what to do. It is exceptionally difficult, and I'm loath to tell people how to parent in any way because I think we're all just trying to figure it out. What I do know is that if your focus is developing a young adult to be confident in who they are and understand those around them, they will figure most of it out. If we're putting our views and our values based on our kids, then that's not developing them for who they are. It's projecting our stuff onto them. And it's a very fine line because obviously as parents we're educating and we're teaching and we're guiding our young people through. But ultimately we want to produce 18-year-olds that are equipped and ready for life.
Fergus, couldn't be more supportive of the work you're doing and that Reach is doing. Appreciate you joining us today on the House of Wellness.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.
Of course, acne is one of the biggest issues when you're a teenager, and I just remember that time. It's not bad enough you got all those things happening to your body, but then to have pimples on your face, it's just awful.
They are such tough years, aren't they? But I really think today's kids have a higher emotional intelligence than we ever did.
Oh, well, I've got to say, my daughter, firstly, unapologetically, I can't even say it, herself.
Yes,
unquestioningly.
but I love that.
I love it, and is very good at expressing her feelings.
That is a good thing. I can't believe Dr. Nick Carr a little earlier told us that teenagers on average grow about 8 centimetres a year through that phase, which is some serious growing pains.
Your kids probably grow a little taller than that.
Well, yeah, I've seen a bit of that on the home front, but probably makes sense that they become pretty painful themselves through those teenage years. Let's take a look.
When our son Simon was 5 or 6 years old, he came into our bedroom one night crying, saying his legs hurt. And he was really distressed, which was very unlike him. Now, it would have been easy to assume that something nasty was going on, but sometimes there's an advantage being a doctor dad, and I realised pretty quickly that what he was experiencing was growing pains. A bit of reassurance, quick leg rub, and within 20 minutes he was fast asleep next to me. So, was he making it up? Well, the answer is a resounding no. While we don't understand what causes growing pains, we do know that the pain is real, and it can be really unpleasant, just like it was with Simon. So, how do you tell growing pains from something more sinister? Well, typical growing pains occur in kids aged 3 to 11, and boys and girls are affected equally. They come on both sides, sometimes in the evening or sometimes waking the child at night. And the pains are in the muscles, not the joints. Importantly, the pain should settle quickly with simple reassurance, a leg rub, and sometimes a bit of pain relief medication. Then during the day, they should be charging around as if nothing much is wrong because, well, actually, nothing much is wrong. Now, if, on the other hand, the pain is persistent, if it's on one side or it's in the joint or the child is limping, then it's off to the doctor. The same if there are any signs of inflammation anywhere. How do you know if there's inflammation? Well, it's back to my days learning Latin. It's calor, tumor, rubor, and dolor. That's heat, redness, swelling, and pain. Despite the name, the pains aren't actually due to growing. They were first described in 1823 by the French physician Marcel Duchamp. And he didn't know what caused the pains then, and 200 years later, we haven't discovered much. There was an article published in the prestigious World Journal of Orthopedics in 2019, which reviewed 32 papers that looked at the cause of growing pains and concluded, nope, still haven't got a clue. And as for Simon, well, he had a few more episodes, but they seemed to settle quite quickly. It took me a while to realise that his leg pains had now become an excuse to hop into bed with mum and dad and snuggle up, what we call a secondary gain. Might do a segment on that another time. The cure? Well, a quick leg rub, word of reassurance, and then firmly back to his bed. Within a week, no more growing pains.
You know, Jack, these gardens aren't just tonic for the soul. They're actually a natural medicine cabinet and beauty chest.
Well, let me tell you, they're not here, but let me tell you about the scented geranium from South Africa. They're used for a whole variety of really interesting things like flavouring and fragrance.
And the magnificent Moonar tree is the star of the medicinal gardens. It has these beautiful white flowers that blossom in spring, and the bees absolutely love it.
And things we can use are all around us, particularly here at the Botanic Gardens. But JK has travelled a little further afield to find the very best in beauty.
I'm so excited to be here in Singapore, the city of passion and the home of my passion, both professionally and personally, beauty. Cosmoprof Asia is one of the biggest beauty events worldwide, and I can't wait to go in there and check out all the latest beauty trends. Now come with me. These are the trend pillars coming out of Cosmoprof Asia. First up, we have illuminators, switching on your skin's inner light.
Next is plump up the volume. Minimally invasive treatments that act as an alternative to fillers or Botox, but with the same rejuvenated results. Then there's Skin Reset, the development of active ingredients to soothe stressed out skin. Our hair is also under stress post-pandemic, and Hair MD is all about innovation with supplements and serums to create luscious locks.
And finally, we have Biome Mania. It's all about the microbiotic allies that support the skin's barrier. And that's it.
I know what you're thinking. Who gets to decide what's hot and what's not? I began by asking Michael Nolte, the ultimate beauty insider.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you.
So, Michael, for those who aren't familiar with beauty streams, what is your role in the beauty industry?
Actually, it's normal if you're not familiar with beauty streams because we really act in the shadow. We're actually there to help understand brands where the future of trends and beauty is going. We're not looking into a crystal ball and say the color will be purple. We're actually connecting the dots between consumer behavior, between what's happening in art and designs, fashion a little bit, of course, as well.
Yep.
And then we distill what would be the possible futures of color. Now, possible futures because we work globally. So, of course, the color taste in Australia will not be the same as in Germany, and even less the same as in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia.
I know this is a tricky question, but which has been your standout beauty trend from the Cosmoprof Asia event?
After years and years of nudes and natural colors, which will of course stay there because they make you pretty, we're moving, it's the good classics, we're moving now into a moment of dopamine colors, so colors that make you happy. We've seen this movement happening in interior design and fashion, and of course in beauty, it's about having a nude base with touches of brights that can be even neon brights that add a little fun, touch of mascara.
Yeah,
you understand.
I definitely agree with that, and that is what I've always loved. So beautiful base with a little bit of colour on the eyes. It's something that you're drawn to. So I am happy that I'm on trend as well. So this stand here really focuses more on finishing products. So we're talking powders, blushes, eyeshadow powders, anything that is kind of the last step in that routine. So this one here is aesthetically really beautiful. It's like a rope that has corals, pinks, highlighters, and all together, when you swirl it around with your blusher brush, it's going to sit perfectly on the cheeks or the apples of your face. You can even press some into your lips, eyes, whatever it is. You have fun with makeup.
The key to any makeup look is a good base, which is why skincare is a timeless trend. Masks have always been a part of my routine as they allow ingredients to penetrate the skin quicker and more effectively.
Good day, mate.
So who would have thought that you can get a mask for both your belly and your butt? Well, it makes sense. We use them on our necks, our face, eye patches, and I feel like these two areas need the same care.
Part of the fun of events like Cosmoprof is seeing what's trending in other countries.
Eloise, I know that you specialise in beauty trends here in Asia. So can you please tell us a little bit more about what you do?
For me, I work a lot on the Southeast Asian beauty market. So I think Asia has a lot right now with the growth of derma care. Dermatologist care is really becoming important because more and more consumers have extremely sensitive skin and they are looking for a very efficient result. So doctor brands are becoming more and more popular. One trend that I find really interesting is the meeting of the traditional beauty with the new scientific innovation. For instance, you have brands that cross the TCM, so the traditional Chinese medicine, with derma care, or Ayurveda in India with derma care, and I think it's one of the most interesting trends in skincare.
For me, one beauty trend that will never go away is giving back.
Mixsoon have a really beautiful story. They like to have collaborations that actually have meaning. One in particular that got my heart really straight away was these beautiful pictures that artists have made that actually have autism, and they're even on these little ones here, a little picture on each product, signifying how, I guess, you're giving belief in these artists and giving them that confidence.
Yeah, we do. Because their difficulty in their life is that they have their guardians now, but when the guardians pass away, they don't have way to be financially independent. So we wanted to promote their artworks like these or like these, promotion them, and also give back to them so that they could be financially supported.
That's amazing. So all the proceeds from all the products sold go back into this community.
Yes. Yes.
We need to do more of this.
Yeah.
Trends may come and go, but what stays the same is the passion and dedication from those in the beauty biz, all trying to find a way to make you look and, more importantly, feel your best.
Next time you look and you think it's just a beauty product, honestly, if you could take anything away from this, it's so much more.
Well, we are absolutely loving the wildlife here at the Botanic Gardens, and while we're talking about animals, the great news is 29 Australian species have recovered enough to be taken off the endangered list.
Exactly right, Jo. Bandicoots, frogs, the greater bilby and even the humpback whale are now off the list, and you can see the impact the changes have made, and it really makes you want to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from protecting wildlife to protecting our immunity, here's Hines and Zoe getting very, very serious about citrus.
If you're looking to mix things up in the kitchen, Zoe, you really can't go past citrus. I mean, you've got colour, you've got flavour, and depending on your mood, you can lean into sweet or savoury.
Well, I am in a savoury mood, Lukey.
Well, that sounds good to me, because I'm all sweet.
Ooh, well, look, you know what? We're at that time of year. It's getting colder, the germs are out, and citrus fruit contains a high amount of vitamin C, which helps to support our immune system.
We also need to consider gut health, and I know what you're thinking. What's the connection there?
Well, 80% of our immune system cells are actually found in our gut.
Zoe, I was hoping for a bit more of a build-up.
Well, the people need to know, Lukey, that it takes more than just eating vitamin C-rich foods. A healthy gut microbiome supports a healthy immune system function. It's a domino effect.
And if sickness strikes, we may turn to antibiotics on advice from our doctor. And the irony is, while it works wonders for making us feel better, antibiotic use may deplete the good bacteria in our gut.
And introducing probiotics may help to restore this balance by adding extra good bacteria into the gut microbiome. And probiotics can be found in food sources such as yogurt, fermented food, or in supplementation.
Look for a high-strain probiotic with lots of diverse strains for immune system and daily gut health support. Now, Zoe, I don't know if you know this about me yet, but I am a terrible sick person, so I avoid it at all costs.
So, Luke, man flu, is that what we're talking about?
That is absolutely unreasonable. I have never had the man flu. You know what? Yeah, I'm done.
Lukey, come back.
Get Nourished is brought to you by BioGland Platinum Probiotics, backed by science. Australia's highest strain probiotic range for digestive and immune system health.
Well, this Sunday, March 26, is a very special day, and Dr. Nick Carr, we've been asked to wear purple, I believe.
Yeah, it's because it's Purple Day, which is a global initiative to raise awareness about epilepsy. And it's really important because there's still a lot of myths and misinformation about the condition.
Over 60 million people around the world are affected by epilepsy. For 50% of those people, there is no known cause, which is part of the anomaly that is epilepsy. But what else don't we know? First of all, not all epilepsy is the same. No two people experience it the same way. Not all seizures are convulsions. Some people get fidgety or wander off or just stare into space, which makes it hard for people who don't know it's a symptom to help. For 1 in 3 people, medication doesn't work. The medication often has side effects like exhaustion, headaches and dizziness. Seizures affect memory and concentration. And just like asthma and diabetes, epilepsy also has a risk of injury and/or death.
You can support people with epilepsy by wearing something purple, maybe giving yourself a purple hairdo or hosting a purple-themed community event. Maybe you could cook a beetroot pie. Nice.
Well, a huge thanks to Melbourne's Royal Botanic Gardens for hosting us here today, and I, for one, will definitely be back.
It has been beautiful, and don't forget to check out our latest lift out with a focus on fitness.
And you can always check out House of Wellness Radio every Sunday with myself and Gerald Quigley.
Thanks as always to our friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time.